Hello everyone, welcome back to My Hero Academia Podfic. Today will be the continuation of If We're Being Honest. This will be Part 5, Chapter 5, entitled Useless. Kirishima, as well as everyone else, had gotten pretty used to the truth quirk by the end of the first week. Yeah, it was still pretty weird when they couldn't stop their mouths from opening half the time, but really, it wasn't as bad as they thought it was going to be. It was only the first few days that everyone had been sharing their deepest, darkest secrets. Hopefully that was over. Kirishima had been scared when the topic of dyeing his hair had come up, but he had forced himself not to say anything. Katsuki's compliments on his hair had certainly helped distract him. He had also been scared of Mina, that she would say something, but she didn't. She simply poked fun at him like she always did. Maybe she didn't realize how low his self-confidence had really been in middle school. But he was better now, right? "Hey guys, who do you think has the coolest quirk?" Kaminari asked the boys in the locker room that Friday after school. They had been doing specialized quirk exercises that day, so of course someone was going to ask. Someone always did. They couldn't seem to lie. It was more weighted of a question. "Like mine, it would be so cool if I could actually control it half the time," he said. "Well, in terms of control, I think Kachan wins," Midoriya said, causing the boy in question to smirk triumphantly. "He's insanely talented." "What about Todoroki?" Kirishima asked. Katsuki snapped around and shot him a murderous look. "Huh? You think Icy Hot's better than me?" Kirishima waved his hands frantically to calm the boy down. "No, that's not what I meant at all. I just find it weird that he wouldn't pick his own boyfriend, that's all. You're both super strong." "Oh, I think Shoto's strong as well," Midoriya said with a blush. "I've just looked up to Kachan's strength my whole life, so I've gotten a little biased. Plus, I was talking about control, and no offense, Sho, but you've still got to work on your left side." Todoroki nodded, face as blank as ever. "I'm aware." Midoriya turned red when the words that he had said just registered. "That sounded so rude. I'm so sorry." "Don't worry, it's fine." Todoroki gave one of his rare smiles. "I love your analysis, even if it's about me." "You two are disgusting," Katsuki said. "Don't act like you and Kirishima are the same way," Ojiro said. "You hang on him every movie night and then some." "I know training is over, but I can still kick your ass, Tail Boy." "It's Tail Man." "I know, but my nickname's better. Anyway, it doesn't matter. My quirk is the best, and A's right after mine." "Of course you'd pick your boyfriend," Kaminari teased. "I don't think so," Kirishima said quietly, making everyone look at him. He tried not to crumple under the gaze, but kept on talking regardless of how much he wanted to stop. "Katsuki would be first, and I think Todoroki would be next, then Midoriya compared to the start of the year, at least. Then Ida." "But your quirk has a variety of uses," Ida said with certainty. "I don't think Bakugo was incorrect to state that you have some of the best control of your quirk in this room." "Yeah, and it sounds like we're not including the girls." Kaminari shivered like he was thinking of something frightening. "Momo would win hands down." "That's fair," Todoroki said. "But yeah, Kirishima, your quirk is very applicable." "But it's not at all heroic or helpful," he said, hardening his hand for a moment, before staring at his regular skin. "Neither am I, for that matter. My quirk and my personality aren't all that flashy. I don't think I'll be a good of a hero. Under all the hardening, I'm pretty useless." Kirishima's head snapped up, after his unprompted words registered in his mind. Shit. "I'm leaving." And without even looking at the others, that's exactly what he did, as fast as he possibly could. "How stupid am I?" he thought to himself. "I mean, really. I didn't even put my shirt back on before leaving the locker room," he thought as he yanked a random t-shirt over his head and changed into pajama pants. Because, damn it, he might have been sad, but he wasn't about to be sad and uncomfortable at the same time. Maybe he was spending too much time with Mina. He thought he was more self-confident compared to middle school, and he was, right? He had said, "I don't think I'll be a very good hero," and not, "I don't think I can be a hero at all." That was an improvement. He realized then that this quirk didn't stop you from trying to lie to yourself. He managed to escape the locker room without anyone following, and get to the dorms before anyone else did. So he was able to escape to his room and hide there for what would hopefully be the rest of the night. He did his best to distract himself, doing homework that wasn't due till Monday. At least he tried doing homework. He stared at the page in front of him and tried not to think about what his words from earlier meant, but to no avail. He had thought that during that stupid raid he had overcome something inside himself, and he'd become more of a man, but it was more of a band-aid over a bullet wound. Strip away his hardening, and he was just still a weak kid, with the moment to save someone. He didn't know if he would charge in head first or freeze. He stared at that stupid piece of paper for so long, and he didn't realize he had skipped dinner. He hoped that the girls didn't know about what he had said by now, but he knew that it was wishful thinking. Even if others hadn't wanted to share, one question would have been all it would take to get him to spill, and considering his absence, it was obvious they would ask. What would Mina have told him if she found out? Would she tell them how he dyed his hair to stand out more, or that he froze with the lives of their former classmates when they were on the line? A knock at his door startled him. He ignored it at first, but then they knocked again 5 times louder. He had one guess as to who that could be. He reluctantly opened the door. "Hey." "You skipped dinner." Katsuki's voice was quiet, so unlike his usual tone. "Everyone was worried about you." That definitely wasn't something he would say normally, so Kirishima couldn't help but smirk. Definitely not to distract himself from his growing panic. No, not at all. "It's nice to see you caring." He watched the blonde's cheeks heat up and almost regretted his words. "Well, it's not easy for me to be all nice and shit. You and all the extras are so good at it." Kirishima's jaw dropped at the admission. Here he was concerned about his secrets getting out, and his boyfriend was spilling his guts to him at his doorway. They still hadn't even spoken about what happened earlier in the week. Kirishima had been waiting for the blonde to bring it up first, but based on how uncomfortable he looked now, he obviously didn't want to talk about it. "So, are you here to force me to eat?" Kirishima asked, making an effort to change the topic. Katsuki looked at him almost gratefully, before shooting him a glare. "That's exactly what I'm doing, you idiot. We're also doing another movie night tonight. We'll probably watch even more, too, since it's a Friday. They sent me to get you." Kirishima began to turn around to put his stuff away. "Well, let me just—" "Do you really think all that?" Katsuki asked with a low voice. His eyes were downcast, and his mouth was in a grim line. "All the stuff you said in the locker room. Do you really believe it?" "Yeah." Kirishima couldn't stop the words from coming out if he tried. He could feel his heart pounding as if he were trying to escape his chest. "I couldn't say it if I didn't think it." Let's just go downstairs," he said, attempting to push past him through the doorway. "I don't want to talk about it." "You know everyone else is going to just try to hound you as well," Katsuki said, putting a hand on his chest to stop him. "I might be bad at confrontation, but there are people down there that will grill you until you spill just about everything." Kirishima remembered everyone doing that to Katsuki early in the week, and he couldn't help but wince. "Yeah, you're right about that." "So talk to me." The blonde almost looked constipated, and it was almost funny. "I'm so bad at this, but I'm trying, okay?" "And I appreciate it," Kirishima said as he grabbed the other's hand off his chest and started pulling him down the hallway to the elevator. "I don't know what to say, though. I used to be really self-deprecating, and I'm better now, but I'm still not all that self-confident. Is that what you want to hear?" It came out a lot harsher than he meant it to, and he felt horrible since Katsuki really was trying, and he threw the attitude back in his face, but thankfully his boyfriend was fluent in the language of bitterness. "I guess, but I want to know how I can help. I care about you." He almost gagged at his own words. "This quirk, I swear to All Might himself, if this quirk makes me sound all sweet and shit one more time—" Kirishima laughed. "I happen to like you, soft." "That's gross." They walked out of the elevator without too much of a shock wave going through the room, since all were focused on picking movies. But Kirishima definitely noticed heads turn his way when the doors opened, to which he awkwardly waved before following Katsuki to the kitchen. "I saved some noodles for you," he said as he shoved a plate into his hands. "I had Sato heat them up, so they should be good to eat. There's chicken in there, too." Kirishima felt his mouth water at the sight. "It was your night to cook, right?" Katsuki smirked. "You know it." "I love you." He took a bite. "And your cooking," he said through a mouthful of food. It sounded like a whole jumble of words instead. "And you said Izuku and I were bad," Todoroki deadpanned from the table. "Shut your trap, Icy Hot." "You're all disgustingly sweet," Kaminari said with a wide smile as he poked his head around the corner. "We're starting the movies now." For every other movie night before, it had been Katsuki tucked into Kirishima's side. That's just how it happened, he supposed, but tonight it was the other way around. The blonde put his arm around in a way that made him feel safe and warm. If this was how Katsuki had been feeling all week, he couldn't help but feel a tiny bit jealous. He hoped that they could just enjoy the movies and nothing about what he had said earlier would come up, but that was about as likely as Bakugo admitting to being bad at fighting. It was inevitable, really. Put 20 truth-prone teenagers in a room, one of them is bound to say something eventually. Kirishima just wished he had a bit more time to catch his breath before all hell broke loose. And of course, it was Mina that spoke first. It was during the credits of the second movie. By this point, they were getting more tired, so the talking between scenes and such had gone down. It lowered him to his false sense of security, because of course it did. He didn't even notice her pause the movie, too busy sleepily tracing the veins on Katsuki's arms. "Kirishima," she said quietly, "do you really think you won't be a good hero?" He was wide awake now, and the pounding in his chest was back in full force. "I don't know," he answered honestly. "Sometimes I feel like I will be, and like when I do well in training and in class." "That's not a real answer," Katsuki said. Kirishima felt his cheeks heat up. "The quirk let me say it, so of course it is." "Not necessarily," Jiro said with a frown. "We can say half-truths if we try hard enough, and I think you're trying very, very hard." She punctuated that last part with a glare in his direction, and he found himself struggling to breathe for a moment. Was it really hot in here, or was it just him? "Guys, give him some space," Kaminari said. "I thought we all agreed not to ask questions unless the person said it was okay." "It's all right," Kirishima said with a wave of his hand. He could do this. Communication was important, and it took a lot of gusts, right? He had to be able to do this. "I don't want to wimp out or anything." "This isn't about you wimping out, Kirishima," Mina said, and she sounded close to tears. "Since when had that happened?" "This is about if you feel comfortable talking to us about this at all." He looked down at the ground for a moment before giving her a small smile. "I guess you're right, and I am. Comfortable, I mean." He rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. "It's like Midoriya said a few days ago. I trust you guys like a second family." He felt Katsuki's arm tighten around him, almost protectively. "Good," the blonde said. "We wouldn't let you deal with this on your own anyway." Kirishima chuckled in spite of himself. "I figured as much." "Did this start in middle school?" Mina asked. "When that monster attacked my friends?" He looked at his hands and wrung them together awkwardly. "I mean, yeah. Back then my quirk was super weak anyway, but I thought that my spirit could make up for it. But then that happened and I froze. Something horrible could have happened if you hadn't stepped in, and I would have been a helpless bystander." He didn't need to look up to know that everyone's gazes were drilling into him. It was obvious that Mina had talked to them about it earlier, and he wondered if they thought he was a coward, too. "I've frozen before," Midoriya said suddenly. Kirishima looked up at him with wide eyes. "Back when I didn't have a quirk, this giant sludge monster was going to attack me, and I didn't move in time. I would have died if All Might hadn't saved me." "That thing attacked you, too?" Katsuki suddenly yelled, now at the edge of his seat and gripping his armrest tightly. The others looked between the two rivals in confusion. Midoriya just shrugged. "Yeah, All Might caught him, actually, but because of me he got away and was able to attack you." His head then shot up and he slammed his hands over his mouth. Kirishima looked up at Katsuki, who was staring at Midoriya with wide eyes. "You blame yourself for me getting attacked, don't you?" It wasn't a question. "Hey!" Uraraka exclaimed. "It wasn't his fault. How dare you?" "I didn't say I blamed him, Pink Cheeks. I just said he did." "You don't blame me?" Midoriya whispered, slowly lowering his hands. He looked shocked, and honestly, with Katsuki's temper, Kirishima could hardly blame him. Katsuki clicked his tongue. "Of course not. I mean, you probably did something stupid, but if All Might caught him, then it should have been his responsibility not to let it go." Midoriya looked down, seemingly embarrassed. "I guess you're right." "But you didn't freeze later that day," Kirishima found himself saying, causing everyone to turn to him in confusion. "It was all over the news. Some kid got attacked by a sludge monster, and another rushed in to save him. That was you, wasn't it?" "Yeah, that was me and Kacchan," Midoriya said, looking down. "My feet literally moved on their own. All the heroes yelled at me for being stupid, except for All Might. That's when he offered me his quirk." He looked up at Kirishima with a red face. "That wasn't helpful, was it?" "No, not really." He winced at his own words. "This stupid quirk really makes me sound so rude. I hate it." "We all feel that way," Jiro said with a smirk. "Except for Bakugo." Katsuki started yelling some sort of profanities at her, but Kirishima wasn't really listening. When Midoriya had been faced with a life-or-death situation in middle school, he had acted without thinking. He himself had pleaded with his own body to move, but nothing worked. He was a coward, and he was never meant to be a hero like the rest of his classmates. He was sure of it. "That's not what I'm saying at all," Midoriya yelled almost angrily, but he mostly just sounded disappointed, which everyone knew was always worse. He looked around to see everyone staring at him, and he was realizing that he had said all of that out loud. Oops. Yeah. Oops. Katsuki deadpanned. Kirishima felt his face heat up again. I know that sounds bad. That's because it is, dipshit. The blonde turned so he was looking at him dead in the eyes. He almost got lost in the amount of emotion they held. So rare to see his usually impassive face. Remember what the nerd said when he spilled his guts about his quirk? He trusted all of us and came to us because he wanted other people to feel comfortable doing the same. You're coming to us now, so we get to support your depressed ass. I take it back, Jiro said strangely. You are somehow so nice, yet a complete ass at the same time. What's it to you? He yelled, turning to her and letting a few sparks off his hands. I'm allowed to be complicated, and I'm allowed to say that you, Kirishima Eijiro, are the strongest person I've ever met in my life, and I'm lucky to have you. Kirishima stared at his boyfriend and tried to ignore the tears that began to gather in his eyes. How are you so aggressively nice? It's a gift, Jiro said, snickering. Bless her for keeping things light, or he probably would have been breaking down right now. She probably knew it, too. The soft look in her eyes was anything to go by. As class rep, I'm wondering if we should bring this to Aizawa's attention, Ida said seriously. He might be able to help in ways that we can't. Kirishima felt the blood rush to his ears in terror. I really don't want to tell anyone else. But this is more serious of an issue than you just being sad sometimes, Yamamoto said with a frown. She was looking at him like he was a little brother to her. He wondered if she had any siblings, but he doubted it because of what she had said the other day about her parents. It sounds a lot like you have an undiagnosed depression. Is this how you feel a lot of the time? He looked down, shrugging a bit. Why did his friends always have to get to the heart of the issue? I mean, yeah, I feel better than I did in middle school, but not all that much. That didn't mean he was depressed, though, right? He realized it made a lot of sense, and it made his heart drop in his defeat. Aizawa might be able to help get you some counseling from the school or some sort of therapy, Ida reasoned. I really don't want to tell him, Kirishima said again. Please? Mina said, and oh God, she was actually crying now. Kirishima felt like a bullet was suddenly ripping through his chest when he saw tear tracks on his friend's face. I know you don't want to, but I think it would really, really help you, and I don't... She hiccuped, leaning on Jiro, who started to rub her back. I don't know if we can help you not hate yourself, Kiri. I don't hate myself, he wanted to say. But that would have been a lie. He harshly blinked back tears. What would I even say to him? Hey, Mr. Aizawa, I'm sad. Please send help. He felt a wave of relief as Mina laughed weakly, even if he knew for a fact that she had caught what he didn't say. Sure, she said, wiping her eyes despite all the tears. Why not? At least think about it, Katsuki said in a voice that he wouldn't be caught dead using at the beginning of the year. Kirishima sighed. Fine, I'll think about it. Good. His boyfriend then wrapped his arms around him in a hug. He froze in surprise at the sudden display of affection, but he melted into it a second later. You're too good to feel bad about yourself. He's right, Kiri, Mina said with a smile, wiping the tears from her face once more. You're brave and talented, and we all love you. You'll be one amazing hero one day, that's for sure, Kaminari said, nodding his head solemnly like he had just bestowed wisdom on all of them. You're the man, bro, Sero stated. You're the manliest man, the manliest, manest, manny... He gets it, Shinzo said, as he grumbled off to the side. But yeah, he looked a bit uncomfortable, but still managed to look him in the eyes and smile. You're a great guy, Red Riot. Kirishima looked down and tried to hold back the tears, but with no luck. His heart was beating loudly, but not with anxiety, with something much more calm, like love and relief that he didn't even think was a waste of space. I love you guys, Kirishima said, trying not to choke on a sob, his grip tightening on Katsuki's shirt. A chorus of affirmations and compliments rang out throughout the room, and Kirishima could think, before the dam broke, was no matter what, he finally understood how much Midoriya cried and why he did it so often. It wasn't so bad, though, especially with everyone else crying too, and Katsuki's arms wrapped tightly around him. In his embrace, and all of his friends' too, he found the strength to smile. It was after their movie night, in which everyone in the Baku squad had been surrounding him on all sides, making him feel safe and warm and loved, that he and Katsuki walked back to their dorms, hand in hand. Are you going to be all right? Katsuki asked. Kirishima didn't think he would ever get used to him being this openly nice. He guiltily hoped that it would last after the quirk wore off, even though he knew it made him uncomfortable to be so vulnerable. I don't know. Probably not. But I don't want to inconvenience you, Kirishima said before face-palming and letting out a loud groan. I just had to say that. Now there's no way you'll leave me alone. Do you want me to leave you alone? No. The response was immediate, and Kirishima felt his face heat up for what must have been the 100th time that night. He saw Katsuki smirk and died a little from mortification. I might not hate this quirk as much as I thought. Kirishima stuck his tongue out at him. You're mean. He opened the door to his room and stepped inside before sighing. And I'm exhausted. He then fell straight onto the bed. Midoriya hadn't been kidding about the adrenaline crash. He already had been wearing pajamas for the movie night, so he didn't hesitate to get under the covers and almost pass out right then and there. And he would have, if it wasn't for his boyfriend still awkwardly standing by the door. Come here, Kirishima said, already half asleep. Just come on and hug me. He was too tired to see the blonde blush, and the next thing he knew, he was climbing into bed beside him and hugging him tightly. For a while they just laid there in peace. I like it when you're nice, he found himself mumbling, but he was too tired to stop the words or even care what he was saying. I like all the different parts of you and stuff, but I don't like myself a lot, so you've got to do it for me, even when the stupid quirk doesn't make you anymore. He felt Katsuki hum. Is that so? Mm-hmm, he said, and he snuggled closer. He felt him laugh a little against his chest, but it somehow sounded almost sad. I'll be sure to keep doing that then, for as long as you need it. It was at the edge of sleep when he felt a kiss to his forehead and heard whispered words. I'd hate myself twice as much to take away your self-hatred. You're too good for me, you know that? You're just pure fucking sunshine. That's Kaminari's nickname, he muttered into the pillow, only half listening. He was just so comfy, hugging his big pillow of a boyfriend that had held him so close to his chest. He could hear the blonde's heartbeat there, and it was much more soothing and interesting than whatever words were being exchanged. He felt Katsuki laugh lightly against him once more, almost like he was looking at something precious. Whatever you say, eh? Then he fell asleep. When he woke up, he didn't remember their conversation at all, and he definitely didn't remember the single silent tear that had landed in his hair. Shota could tell there was something up with his students that Monday. It was obvious, the way they all glanced at each other throughout the class and fidgeted like there was no tomorrow. It was bound to happen. This whole truth quirk situation was making them all face things they didn't want to. He wondered what happened this time. The last thing he had heard of was Midoriya telling them all about his quirk, and Shota wasn't stupid. He looked up his old records and found, before the entrance exam, that he had registered as quirkless, and man did Yagi get an earful from him that day. That probably explained the tension in the room the next day, but it had gone quiet after that day, and what else could have happened over the weekend? He wasn't prepared to find out. Certain his students would stay stubbornly quiet, but as they were packing up their things, a shadow fell over Shota's desk. He looked up to see Kirishima standing there, if a bit awkward. Sir, can I? He cleared his throat and rubbed the back of his neck. Can I talk to you? It was at that moment he realized the rest of the room had gone quiet. He really wasn't sure what to think now. Sure, we can talk in my office. Kirishima nodded jerkily. Shota thought that would be the end of everyone's strange behavior, but as they were leaving they all called out encouragement to the redhead. You've got this, bro, Zero said. We love you, Kiri, Mina said, making a heart with her hands. We believe in you, Midoriya exclaimed. I'll be waiting outside the school for you, Bakugo said. Shota wasn't sure what to make of the soft tone the boy was using. He was proud of him, of course, for being so open, but it was opening up a whole other can of worms. This obviously wasn't them all being mad at each other. That left a whole other range of issues that it could be, and none of them looked good. And when he finally sat Kirishima down across from him, he couldn't say that he was too shocked to see tears in the boy's eyes. Talk to me, kid, Shota said after a moment of nothing. I want to help you. Kirishima nodded and quickly wiped at his eyes. I'm sad. Please send help. I'm sorry, what? Kirishima smiled a bit in spite of himself. Sorry, It's what Mina said I should say. And with that, Kirishima started to talk to him. It was hard listening to his unfiltered thoughts on his own self-worth, knowing he would never be this open normally. Shota was ashamed to say that he hadn't been expecting one of his brightest students to be so depressed, even if it was seemingly well managed, but in retrospect it was obvious. The way his smile wasn't genuine half the time, or how it slipped completely when his friend stopped looking. He put a hand on Kirishima's shoulder. I'm glad you told me. he said softly, not commenting on the silent tears on his student's face. If anything, the sight almost made tears well up in his own eyes. I'm technically qualified for counseling, and if you are ever in need of talking, I'll be here. I can even set you up with something more official if you'd like. We have therapists right here on campus. Kirishima looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes, and for a moment Aizawa wondered if he was too forward, but then he said, I'm not sure. Can I think about it? Of course, Shota said. I know something like this can be frightening, but you've done the hard part. Even if it was because of a quirk, you said something, and that takes true bravery. Kirishima looked at him, and as if a light that wasn't there before shone in his eyes. You really think so? I do. So, how'd it go? Katsuki asked as soon as Kirishima stepped out of the building. It went okay, I guess, he said without even having to think about it, for obvious quirk-related reasons. He told me he could get me counseling, or that I could even talk to him. Katsuki hummed, looking down as they walked. What'd you tell him? I told him I'd think about it. He hummed again, almost like he was contemplating something, which could have been true. Even if the rest of them were at the mercy of this stupid quirk, he was probably stubborn enough to keep his mouth shut when he wanted to. I think you should do it. Well, I know you think... I think you should, because he's already helping me. Kirishima stopped dead. As to say he literally froze in his tracks would have been an understatement. He's what? He's helping me, Katsuki said, surprisingly grabbing his hand and pulling him back along. I've asked him to help me out with, anger management and all my other shit. It's been going on for a while now. Kirishima couldn't stop staring at him. He felt something inside of him. He wasn't sure. Glow? It was a good feeling, that was for sure. He loved him. So much. I'm really, really proud of you, he said, not surprised when his voice came out, slightly choked up. That's really good, really, really good. I'm aware. That's why I'm doing it. And you, He stopped to wipe his definitely not wet eyes with his free hand. You said it's helping. He saw him smirk slightly, his endearing, oh-so-Katsuki way of saying, I know what I'm doing and I've got it under control. It is, which is why you should do it too. I believe in you. And damn, was it Katsuki's mission to just get him to cry all the time? He had to deflect the conversation and fast, or he was going to become a sobbing mess all over again. And you're just talking to Aizawa, not one of the others? Oh, hell, like I'd talk to some random shrink, Katsuki said with slight disgust, making Kirishima unexpectedly laugh. Aizawa's really, really good at this stuff, trust me. And he knows us, too. He's almost like some sort of, I don't know, father figure. Kirishima snorted. If Aizawa's your dad, you must have a pretty weird home life. He was too busy laughing to actually see Katsuki stiffen, ever so slightly beside him, before forcibly relaxing. He wouldn't realize until later how close he'd been to uncovering the truth. The horrible, horrible truth. Whatever, shitty hair, he said with a huff. Just tell me you'll think about it. I will, honestly. You've almost got me convinced. I just don't know if I want to do this with the stupid truth quirk or not. Yeah, I'd say no. We've stopped now for a while since I asked him to, but I am reading this stupid self-help book that he gave me since we're supposed to talk about it when it's all over. It's annoyingly helpful, though. Kirishima couldn't stop the smile from forming on his face when he leaned over to kiss the other's cheek. I love you. You know that? I love you, too. But you missed, idiot. And Kirishima was happy to aim correctly this time. This concludes Chapter 5 of If We're Being Honest. Chapter 6 will be up here for you guys soon as well. Again, this series is only 10 chapters, so we've only got a few more to go. Hope you guys are enjoying this one, and as always, thank you so much for listening.